Hello and welcome to Testing It Out. So, the hardware setup, the inputs are in the positions we talked about in the last section, ready for testing. And if you look at the chain of audio from your mouth right through to Audition software on the computer, the audio hits the recorder before anything else. So you'd think, in theory, the quality of the recording should be better on here than by the time it's got converted from analog to digital for the computer to read, and then to be converted back again into analog in Audition for you to listen to. In the old days of all analog, this long chain would have been a real problem, but with very low noise preamplifiers these days and quality digital gear, you won't have anything to worry about once it's set up properly. To be honest, on my own system recording normal voiceover scripts, I can't tell any difference, and neither can my clients, more importantly, between the technical quality of recordings done directly on the solid-state recorder and recorded on the computer. That is, via the recorder and the USB interface. You can't tell any difference at all. But when I'm shouting a voiceover script, I often get distortion on the peaks in the computer, even when the levels are brought down in Windows. But that's my system and that's my rubbish audio card. You will no doubt find quirks of your own audio card and setup. Everyone is different, even with similar equipment. So how I cope with that, as I mentioned in the last section, is to reduce the input level on the first thing in the chain, the solid-state recorder. For some extremely loud and shouty work, like in video game battle scenes where I'm playing the part of a commander or whatever, I plug an attenuator, a 10 dB attenuator I use after the microphone and before the recorder. Simply gets plugged in the cable before it goes into the recorder, so it can cope with recording me shouting without distortion. So this is what an attenuator looks like, simple XLR plug-in affair, but check your own settings of your chosen solid-state audio recorder, as you may have attenuation settings already built in, and so you can choose that and you won't need a plug-in device like this attenuator. We've yet to have a good look around Adobe Audition and crack the magic of shortcuts and efficient voiceover recording workflow, but for now we need to make sure that it can record okay and the levels are set up for the majority of the work you're going to do as a voiceover artist. With your physical solid-state recorder machine in record or record pause, so the output from the machine is going into your computer all the time, in Audition, let's continue and do a recording. So, how can you record your own voiceovers in Audition? Let's assume the whole system is wired up exactly as I recommended in the previous chapters. We can check that Audition is tuned into the hardware by clicking Edit on Windows versions, or Audition it says on Mac versions, then Preferences, then Audio Hardware. My own personal USB interface is named here. Whatever interface you have should be selected here as well. To record, you need to tell the software what type of file you want to record. So go to File, New, Audio File, and you'll get this dialog here. A shortcut way of getting here is that you use the keyboard, hold Control and Shift keys together, then hit N for New. All right, so Command or Control and Shift keys together, then N for New. Name your file, I'll call this Demo 1. The sample rate should be 48,000 as discussed for VoiceOver. For channels, select Mono. Please never send a stereo VoiceOver file to clients, unless it's a demo where they asked for music to be mixed. You only have one mouth, not two, and the file size will be bigger for stereo, plus there could be phase issues, so remember, please mono for VoiceOver work, or else you'll look like an amateur, and you don't want that. Even though you will export or save as the industry standard 24-bit file, you need to choose 32-bit floating. This will give you the headroom and flexibility to add effects if you wish later. It's better quality if you want to have the layman's expression. So 32 you choose here. The good news is that the system will remember these settings for next time. So sample rate 48,000, we're in mono, and it's 32-bit floating. So we'll accept this. Click Enter, the screen goes blank, ready for recording. Just like an old-fashioned tape recorder, you'll see the virtual controls down here. Click the red button and you'll see your voice being recorded. Wow, look at that. in Adobe Audition. A test recording in Adobe Audition. You'll see the waveform on the main panel moving along, and also the level meter at the bottom. Don't worry about actual levels at the moment. Okay, done recording. Push the square button on the controls to stop. Right, let me tell you another shortcut to save you mousing to that tiny little red record button. It's Control or Command plus Shift plus N for a new file, and once you see it, save the settings from last time. Look at that. Call it Demo 2. Click OK. Forget the red button now. To record, it's Shift plus Spacebar. Here we go. Look at that. It's recording again. Great. You'll very quickly get very fast using the keyboard shortcuts. To stop, you can use the square stop button on the screen or just the spacebar on your keyboard. Everything all right with your system? If no waveform has appeared at all doing any of this, well, just stop recording. Once again, check that your audio recorder is in record or record pause mode. If it's not, then your signal from your mouth through your microphone is not getting through the recorder into the USB interface and into the computer. But it may be into the computer, but Adobe Audition ain't reading it. So we go once again into Audition if you're on a Mac, Edit if it's Windows, Edit, Preferences, Hardware Settings. It shouldn't show your basic computer audio settings, but show it has tuned in to your USB audio device. My particular USB device is a Steinberg UR22 Mark II, and that's what it says here in the settings of Audition. By the way, the software can sense when another audio device is plugged into your computer and can pop up with a query. So, for example, if you have a webcam that you occasionally plug into a USB port of your computer, the Audition software will sense that the microphone that the webcam has inside has been used and worries about this terribly. Oh, it worries so much. Next time you use Audition, it'll come up with a little pop-up box and say, do you really want to change Adobe Audition's default audio input from your lovely quality USB interface to the rubbish webcam? No! Of course, you do not want to take the tiny, nasty microphone in your webcam as the default, so you'd click no, but just to be aware of that. So, if you've now checked and fixed your settings to record again, both on the audio recorder, by clicking the red button in Audition, do you get a waveform? That's great. We're all sorted. Okay, let's play what we've recorded. Click the square stop button or the space bar. And this is a test recording in Adobe Audition. A test recording in Adobe Audition. Now let's take a look at that. That's a pretty healthy waveform, but it's low. It needs normalizing and compressing to sound good. Right, what is normalization? Well, let's do it and see what happens. Effects, amplitude and compression, normalize. Here's a dialog box. Various options here. But for general voiceover work, you'll be asked for audio files at the industry standard normalized to -3 dB or decibels. So forget the percentage. You need to click the dB button, decibels button, then type -3, click apply or punch the keyboard enter key. Wow, look at that. It's boosted the waveform. But actually, it did not really boost it at all. The waveform will sound louder to you, the waveform will be bigger, but it's not changed its properties in any way that it sounds. But it's easier to see the waveform to edit, and it gives, more importantly, a standard level for other effects such as compression to work with. So you always normalize after recording before you do anything else. Repeat after me. Always normalize. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, here's a tip. If you normalize your file and the level drops and does not boost it after you do it, then you have not an error, but look, your levels are generally going to be too high. You could be in danger of clipping or distorting on your peak, so go back and do your settings again. Normalizing should slightly boost your waveform to the agreed level. As I said, it's -3 decibels for most voiceover work, but you may be told differently by different clients or studios you supply files to. If your voiceover file does not boost when you normalize, just check to see if there's not a little spike in there. Because if there's a little spike or a clip or a mouth pop or something like that, then it thinks that's the loudest there is and it's not going to do anything. So you need to address that. But I'll show you in editing how to get rid of nasties and things like that. So just something to watch out for. Right, to make your voice sound punchier or louder, to give real depth and authority for scripts that require it, and particularly for auditions when you need to impress, you need to look at compression. Now, what is this compression that voiceovers seem to be obsessed about? It's a way of crushing the waveform so it reduces the dynamic range. Now, if you do this and boost the volume to the maximum before it distorts, it will sound louder. Now, this is not the same as the loudness button you got on old hi-fi systems. Remember that? Oh, it sounds louder. Oh, that's where the bass and treble are boosted. It's not the same as that. This is compression. When you compress a speech file, the soft parts of your waveform get boosted and the loudest parts stay about the same. Now, I have personally experimented with all the various compression controls in Audition. For my own particular voice, an adapted preset in what is quite a new compression they've offered called multi-band compression is an absolute magic enhancement for my particular voice and for my female voice partner Katie. So into Audition, you select Effects, then Amplitude and Compression, then Multi-band Compression. On the dialog box, look at the presets you're offered. Now, this clever feature uses equalization and compression. It's all clever, but you don't have to worry about what's gone on in the background, but it's all clever stuff. And it's useful, for example, if you ever need to do an audition and you need to sound like an army general on a walkie-talkie or something in a battle zone, whatever, and you need to make it sound like that just for the audition. Normally, the studio would do all this fancy stuff themselves, but you need to make it sound like how they would hear it for an audition sometimes, not all the time, but certainly for this. So you choose walkie-talkie preset. This is where the higher frequencies are highly compressed. Listen to this. This is me normally.
This is an experiment in audio compression. Audio compression usually works better for hard sell commercials or those that need to make a powerful impact.
And this is me through the walkie-talkie.
This is an experiment in audio compression. Audio compression usually works better for hard sell commercials or those that need to make a powerful impact.
But of course you can use equalization as well or just for this. But you don't have to worry about that. Don't worry your pretty little head about that stuff now. Look, the big thing here is the broadcast preset. This is the one where you need to start. Broadcast is the one we need for voiceovers. Okay, now Effects, Amplitude and Compression, Multi-band Compression, and choose the broadcast preset. Now let's play it.
This is an experiment in audio compression. Audio compression usually works better for hard sell commercials or those that need to make a powerful impact.
It's magic, I love it. But actually for my own particular voice, my microphone, and also for my own acoustics, I have tweaked the frequency settings, experimented a bit, and turned the output control on the right down a bit because it was clipping a bit, and saved my own preset, and you can do the same. And once again, Effects, Amplitude and Compression, select Multi-band Compression and choose my personal preset this time.
This is an experiment in audio compression. Audio compression usually works better for hard sell commercials or those that need to make a powerful impact.
Now you'll notice the waveform looks louder. Well, it sounds louder too. Hey man, it goes up to 11. The way, Spinal Tap reference there. The waveform is crushed up. Compress it again, and it looks more mean. Look at that, it sounds it too. Listen to this.
This is an experiment in audio compression.
Oh, well.
This is an experiment in audio compression.
Yeah, okay.
This is an experiment in audio compression.
It's forced, it's distorted, it's all crushed up. So using compression is an art form. Try compressing an up-tempo music track too much and it sounds like a dance music song from the 90s, all pumping and quite hard to listen to. For a voice, when it's over-compressed, it loses clarity. But us voiceovers need to find the best amount and type of compression that makes their voice sound punchy on auditions, yet without losing clarity. If you want to get your head around compression, try listening to radio stations on digital or FM. It doesn't work on AM, where you can't tell the difference. It all sounds mushy and horrible. AM? Who listens to AM anymore? But anyway, if you just listen to a decent quality radio on decent quality speakers, listen to, say, a classical music station where they will have minimum compression. They may compress the adverts, but certainly not the music. And here the dynamic range goes up and down. Then listen to a pop music station, and it's really up front and it's punchy. And that's the way of making the signal sound louder, basically, when you're listening, particularly in a car. Now, you'll use different settings for various types of jobs. For acting work, where it needs to sound real, you won't need to compress at all. And if you listen to radio drama in the car, you'll often have to turn up the quiet bits. For radio ads or legal lines, yes, you'll need lots of it. But, and this is a big but, many of your clients you will be sending files to will want raw files sent, just normalized and not compressed or messed about with in any way, so they can do their own processing in their own studios. However, if you are trying to impress by creating demos or editing together show reels, yes, if compression makes your voice sound better, then do it. And for real jobs, you need to suss out the cut of the jib of the place you're sending files to. I have many regular clients who don't mind me doing my own compression because it saves them the effort at the other end, and they're quite happy. But it's best to make sure you know what they want before you start sending anything. Or what I have done in the past is send both. Click here to download the uncompressed, click here to download the compressed version, and then they understand that you know what you're talking about as well. Okay, next I'll show you around the basic windows and features of Adobe Audition and how to make it look the way you want. And after that, we'll be getting into all the menus and show you the ones we'll need all the time as voiceovers and the ones we can usually ignore, plus some tips and tricks and the wonderful time-saving shortcuts you'll need to be an efficient voiceover artist.